When Gukesh won the candidates tournament, Vishwanathan Anand had told me in an interview that this was the greatest moment for this young generation of Indian chess players. Well, Gukesh has just now topped that. He's dethroned Ding Liren of China to become the youngest world champion in chess history. And he's just 18, which means that he can just about get a driving license and he can't even have a drink to celebrate. So, what were you thinking in that winning moment, Ayaz?
I was thinking about what I was doing when I was 18, Anirudh, and I can't imagine, somebody like Gukesh, on top of the world, beating Ding Liren. I think it's obviously it's to do with is to do with his fantastic skills that he's got at even such a young age. He's been exhibiting this for a long while. I just saw a video clip of his, just before we started the show, of him speaking, I think at the age of 11, 11 and a half, and expressing there that he wanted to become the youngest world champion in chess, and he's achieved that. So it shows you, one, it's not just that, the intrinsic, ability to play chess which was there, and I call it intrinsic because when you achieve so much in such a short span of time, there has to be something special about you. But having said that, you may have something special, but you still have to go out and achieve things to kind of validate what many people have been talking about you since the time you were 7, 8, 9, 10, because that's when young sports persons have to start that early to reach some stature at the age of 17, 18, 19, 20. And Gukesh, I think, in a sense, it's a magnificent personal achievement, but in a sense, it's also a metaphor of how India has now become, in my opinion, the bastion of chess excellence in the world. It's no longer Russia, certainly not. It's no longer many of the countries behind the Iron Curtain, or the East European countries behind the Iron Curtain, where the chess talent used to bloom. It used to proliferate. I think right now India is now the hub of great sporting of chess excellence.
Yeah, I was going to come to that point. So apart from Gukesh, you have already have Arjun Erigesi, who's world number four, in fact has a better rating than Gukesh, and you also have the precocious Pragnananda, who's beaten Carlsen a few times across formats, and he's rapidly improving. So do you think this could be Do you think this could be a culmination of their progress, or it's just a beginning, and you see a lot of more Indian domination in the coming years?
I actually think it, flourishing even further from here, because what these guys have achieved, these young guys. And remember, you mentioned a few names which are all men. I mean, there's also this whole women's section where Indian girls and Indian women are doing exceptionally well. So I think India's prowess in chess is just going to grow from here. And the larger the number, as we all know, when you have a pyramid with a very large base, you will get a lot more excellence and elite performers at the top. The shorter the base, the fewer the performers. But if the base is going to be so huge, and right now, in a sense, I'm saying this obviously not literally, but almost in every household now, people want to play chess, and that's the impact that we've had from the time of Vishy Anand. I'll go back a little earlier, given my vintage, from the time of Manuel Aran. But Vishy Anand is a massive inflection point in the history of chess, not just Indian chess, but in chess itself. And then from there on, subsequent generations leading up to Gukesh and all the other young players who've been achieving magnificent things over the past few years. So I think chess in India is going to, as I mentioned, flourish even further, and we're going to produce some really exceptional players who are going to challenge anybody from the world.
Yeah, so that brings me to a question that might paint me as a negative man, but Magnus Carlsen's shadow looms large over this Gukesh win, and in fact, he is still the best player in the world, although he stepped away from the World Championship title picture. But do you think that in any way dilutes Gukesh's reign, or are you one of those people who says that it's not Gukesh's fault that Carlsen stepped away? I mean, you can only play who's available.
Absolutely, I agree with that. I mean, but it also presents a challenge for Gukesh now. Carlsen is still around, and Gukesh and the others from India who are aspiring to become the top-notch player in the world and recognized as such, irrespective of titles. So I think Carlsen remains, one more hurdle to surmount, so to speak, for the rest of the chess world, and certainly for chess players from India who are now there's not one or two, there are so many of them vying for top honors. So I think and Carlsen, remember, has also not been entirely complimentary of the tournament that has just concluded, and the quality of play and stuff like that. So I think that the chess players who are from India should take it on themselves now to prove a point to Carlsen and his votary of supporters.
Yeah. So, lastly, let's move back to cricket, which are kind of our bread and butter on this show. So, the third test between India and Australia starts tomorrow at the Gabba, and Hazelwood is back for Australia. He's in fact in the playing 11. And on India's side, the question is whether Rohit goes back to opening, whether you find a spot for Jadeja, or and who the third seamer is going to be. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, like I mentioned last time that after the Perth win, there were there was a problem of plenty. Now there are plenty of problems, and part of this is restricted or located in the team selection and the batting position of Rohit Sharma. That is paramount. I think there is a lot of opinions on it. Opinions divided down the middle. Uh, Former cricketers like Sunil Gavaskar, former captains like Sunil Gavaskar and Ravi Shastri, who've been tracking Indian cricket for so long, believe he should come back to the top position, the opener's position, and somebody like Cheteshwar Pujara, who's played a lot with Rohit Sharma and is more contemporary, feels he should continue at six. I would actually go with Gavaskar and Shastri for the simple reason that Rohit has achieved some wonderful things as an opener, not in this year, but otherwise he has. And also, when he walks out to bat at the top of the innings, then there is a certain amount of threat that comes immediately to the opposite team. And if you capitalize on that threat, if he does that, then obviously it gives India the foundation that they've been struggling to get in both the test matches. We may have won at Perth, but remember that was largely because of the 200-run partnership in the second innings between Jaiswal and Rahul. Now that was the reason why Rohit didn't open in the second test, and it just went haywire. So I would still want him at the top, but obviously now it's his decision and Gautam Gambhir's. Where the others are concerned, there's again a little bit of an issue. Harshit Rana, after a fine test at Perth, is suddenly under a bit of a cloud. Will he play? Will Akashdeep play? What we can say for certain is Bumrah and Siraj will play. And whether it's Washington Sundar or Ashwin or Jadeja, I think the temptation to play Jadeja might be pretty strong. So, uh, he's obviously on past performance the best batsman of the three between Ashwin, Washington Sundar, and himself. He's the best fielder. That those are two big pluses. As a bowler, you might say that Ashwin is the more prolific wicket taker, uh, but Jadeja is more steady. Washington Sundar, I think, a little inexperienced in the international firmament, though he's got some good performances in Australia, so can't overlook him. But Jadeja has a strong claim also. At the end of the day, I think really it's a question of not just a position, a player, Rohit batting at number one or six. It's about how quickly the team has regrouped. If they have regrouped quickly, then obviously they can perform well. Remember, there's not much to choose between the two teams, but Australia going with the advantage of having won the last encounter and won it in great style.
Yeah. So, like I said before, that test starts tomorrow, and we'll come back to you after that match. So, that's it for this episode of Sports Room. We'll see you next time.